So there's been a lot of controversy about the Meghan Markle and Harry interview with Oprah recently, and that's brought up a lot of questions about the royal family. Now, myself and other people who've been involved in destructive groups in the past have heard some of the things that have been said and kind of gone, this sounds familiar. So in this video, we're going to be asking the question, is the royal family a cult? Let's talk about this. Hey everyone, I'm Andy Fellows and I make videos on cult skepticism and making sense of life after New Age spirituality. Now in this video, I'm not going to be doing like a deep dive into whether the royal family is a cult and looking at all the history of this, that and the other. In this video, what I wanted to do specifically was take a little look at what Meghan and Harry are saying in their interview with Oprah and ask the question, if what they're saying is true, does that paint a cult-like picture about the royal family? Now, I think before we dive into this, I think it's really important to address the fact that what we're getting in this interview with Meghan and Harry is not even half the story, I don't think. You know, they say there's two sides to every story, and I don't think that we've heard the other side of this story. We've heard the media's version of this, and often the way that Meghan has been portrayed, especially by the UK media, has been horrendous, it has to be said. And so I think that a lot of the stuff that we're hearing from Meghan and Harry in the interview is not really even a half of the story. There's obviously a lot they couldn't say, there's obviously a lot they wouldn't say, and I honestly feel like to an extent, with what was said, the fact that they didn't say some of the things that they perhaps could have said, I feel has made it so that there's not a lot of context for some of the things that they did say. And taking that into account here as we're talking about this, there's a lot of stuff we don't know. There's a lot of things that, it would be difficult to make an informed judgment on or have an informed opinion on. So I want to bear that in mind as we're going through this. So first I want to go through the points that make this seem a little bit more cult-like. And then after that, I want to kind of go from the other angle and sort of, I guess, be a bit more charitable in the way that I'm looking at this, so that we can sort of explore both points of view here and hopefully have a good conversation about this in the comments afterwards. So the first point that sort of strikes me as, a little bit cult-like is the point of control and the limitation of choice and movement and so on for Meghan in particular. So she talked about when she first arrived at the palace, her keys and her passport were taken away. The passport does concern me because, let's just say that it was really, really bad in there. Let's just say that what was going on in there was she was under significant duress or whatever throughout the time. She's going to want to be able to leave. She's going to want to be able to just get on a plane and go home if that's what she wants to do, but that wasn't an option. So she did speak about in the interview how she did feel that her mental health deteriorated significantly while she was there, and there was a point where she did want to end it. When she was feeling bad, she went to the institution, is what they refer to it as. She went to the institution and she said to them, hey, look, I want help. I need to get help here. I'm not doing well. And that was denied to her, apparently. So in that sense, there is that control. There is that limitation of what she can and can't do. And that is concerning, I would say. In any situation, it should be the case that if someone is struggling with their mental health, if someone is struggling in some way, then they should have support. In this case, there was that comment on the institution, saying, oh, well, this is just how it is. Everyone gets treated this way by the media, because obviously a big part of why Meghan was struggling the way she was, from what she was saying, was that the media were giving her a lot of shit. But the family kind of were saying, oh, that's just how it is. Everybody gets that treatment. So, just sort of, I guess, pull your socks up and manage it. But even if that is the case that everybody gets it, she clearly wasn't managing very well, as I say, going by what she was saying. In that case, she should have got the help she needed, and that she didn't concerns me, and it seems like there's an element of restriction there, although maybe not control. I feel that, from what she's saying there, it sounds like there was a significant disregard for her well-being. Something that also was concerning was what seemed like a purity test on Archie, their son, and the way it was sort of portrayed in the interview was that, there were concerns about the colour of his skin. Now, that one I will circle back to at the end of the video, because I think there's a conversation to be had around that. But if it was the case that what was being said was like, I'm concerned that he is going to be dark-skinned, then why? That leads me to another point. It's not really made very clear throughout what's being said whether the later decision to withdraw security from Archie, and this was sort of ambiguous, but when they say security, I believe they mean like a security detail, like people around to make sure that nothing bad happens. That decision being taken away, it wasn't really made clear like exactly what it was that set that in motion throughout the interview. And this is what I mean when I say if they had given more context, it perhaps would have helped clear things up a little bit on that. It may have looked better for them, may have looked worse for them, may have looked better or worse for the family and so on. But if they'd been clearer about that, then we would have had an answer to like exactly whether it was the potentially racist concerns that led to that withdrawal of security, or whether it was literally that they wanted to come away, they wanted to be away from the family, and so they didn't want to be doing their royal duties, and so you're not doing the duties, you're not doing these things, so you don't get the benefits of that in the security, which, if nothing else, speaks to a complete like being out of touch with the reality of being someone, whether you have the titles or not. Being from the royal family makes you a high profile individual, and so there are going to be risks that come with that, especially given the apparently racist tones of some of the criticisms and death threats that Meghan was receiving. That kind of stuff makes it all the more concerning that they did decide to withdraw security from them. Again, it's not clear whether that was like a coercive, well, if you don't do what we say, then we're not going to give you what you need to survive in a way, kind of a thing. Or it may have just been the protocol, that's the way it's done, they've withdrawn and so on. But again, that wasn't made clear in the interview. Also, there's clearly a lot of secrecy and like insider versus outsider doctrine kind of a thing. Like these are only things that when you're inside, and they're sort of kept very stum on the inside. Which again, there's that sort of barrier between information and ideas from the inside and the outside, which is again a sort of a bite model point. So looking at this from the other side with regards to the control, and especially regarding Meghan's mental health, I feel like there is clearly a bit of a disregard for the severity of the situation that Meghan was in, which I feel that was a mistake on the part of the family there by the sounds of it. But then there's this other side of things, which does sort of highlight that maybe there was an idea here that the family were saying, we know what's right. This is the way it's done. And I think that in many cases with this, the fact that in a cult you have someone who says, I know what's right, I've perceived some sort of social law or social order that by my own conception can be solved or whatever. That kind of a tendency with cults comes sort of top down in like a way of like, I know the right way to live, right? In this case, it doesn't strike me as I know the right way to live situation. It strikes me of, this is how it's done. This is how it's been done for generations upon generations. This is a very entrenched and an ancient way of doing things. And good or bad, it doesn't seem to for me, it doesn't sort of line up with cult exactly, although maybe it's not so great. And I think clearly in the case of getting people's mental health seen to, clearly that's not ideal. With regards to the concerns about Archie's skin colour, it's conceivable for me that the conversation could have been around like, what colour hair do you think he's going to have? What colour eye tone do you think he's going to have? And who do you think he's going to take after? Is he going to take your skin colour, or is he going to take his dad's skin colour? That kind of thing. I think there could be a conversation there that happened that was somewhat benign. But if it was like there was concern about the skin colour, then yeah, again, that for me, not great. Now, one big thing that stands out to me here as like this is probably not a cult situation thing, is that when it comes to cults, as with like fascism as well, there tends to be the push for an outward expansion. There tends to be a desire to spread the good news and bring everybody into the fold, bring everybody under the rule of the group. And while, yes, there is the imperialistic past, even in that expansion, there wasn't the desire to make everybody part of the royal family. So I think in that sense, it lacks that outward expansion and that desire to convert that you often see with cults. One of the things that really stands out for me here is that realistically, looking at this situation, looking at the relationship between the press and the royal family, looking at the kinds of things that happened, if the press relationship and the royal family thing wasn't what it is, if there wasn't what seems like an abusive relationship between the press and the royal family, where the press basically just print whatever they want and the royal family are treading on eggshells to make sure that they have a favourable picture painted of them. Considering all of that, this is very much the consequence of freedom of information moving around, freedom of behaviour, freedom of thought, freedom of emotion on the side of the people. And in terms of the establishment as it is, the situation for Meghan and Harry there seems incredibly unlikely to have happened in the way that it has, if not for the fact that we are not looking at an authoritarian situation. Because that freedom of conversation that's happening there between the press and the people, and in terms of the royal family being a cult, in terms of the royal family establishing control and influence over the people in their midst, it doesn't seem like that's what's happening. If anything, it seems like the relationship between the royal family and the media has got the media with their thumb on the royal family, and the royal family being very much in a situation where they're just trying to stay relevant in a way, and they're not doing very well, I think, at the moment, to be fair, but like to make it so that people have a favorable view of them. So yeah, I feel like when it comes down to it, there's not much in that interview, at least, that kind of stands out as being cult-like in terms of how the royal family is. There is very much like a calling to like a higher purpose that you also do see in cults. But a lot of the dynamics around it, while they are concerning and clearly not ideal for the people involved, I don't know if you could put that under cult. And I would be concerned about applying the word cult so broadly to so many things anyway, because I feel like the more broad a term is, the more you sort of forfeit the usefulness of it and the utility of it in specific cases. So anyway, let me know what you think to that in the comments below now that you've heard my point of view. I'm Andy Fellows. I'm here pretty much every Thursday. If you've enjoyed this video today and you want to help support the channel, then please consider checking out the Patreon in the link in the description below. And if you like this video, please remember to hit the like button. Otherwise, please be kind and ask good questions, and I'll see you in the next one.